저기 개회신인기 개주
제주.
개주대
제외 신이 제주 상에서
Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
주사분도 훨씬 주사. 주. 알레 주던.
예배. Yeah.
昨天我不是请Geshe来帮我录音吗？然后早上那个Geshe Tsewang Kyap他给我们考试，叫我们每一个人要背出来。然后我昨天其实还没有背起来，然后他突然要考试，然后我就硬背，还好有慢慢一个字一个字。
개회신인기 천이.
알레昨天你教这人这个读第几堂节没到吧？哪几堂节读吗？我想你问是第几堂节没到吧的什么意思？
不是，我知道你要解释，我只是要知道怎么读。
我解释。
我知道你在解释，我只是听不懂。听得懂一点。
다와가다 디차자지. 디차자지.
작게시.
오늘 남민도에.
남민도.
진짜 집았다다.
집었다다.
네. 다음에 나좀 고쳐.
감사합니다.
자잘 민민도.
다음에도 내가서 진짜 집어야나 맞아.
그 지체나 가서 좀 집어. 가서 좀 집어야나 돌레시라.
이렇게.
자잖아 요나.
근데 타격이 민도.
내가 회신한테 디지 단체 메타바.
디지 단체 메타바.
자지 단체 둥어. 가서 공할 때 계셔티래. 나 된다 하마코네. 파 디지 단체 메타바잖아. 신자 몸부지 콘시에바이. 야 콜로고아 디지 단체 메타바. 자지 단체 둥어. 슈 단체 돈제 다메. 양엘인데바 제제 게와스. 스티인데 고에사라. 나 콜 러시아 고에사르 뭐 뭐지 네.
정근이게 진짜. Hello online.
내가 스티만 도셔라.
뒤로.
아니다. 데레 동보 텐자 게웨 신이 진 생이잖아네. 당가서 라우렌노네 셰비 게웨 신이자 칸디지 고라잖아. 네 게웨 신이들 체추 몸부지 고도. 테마 러시아죠. Yes.
So we have arrived at to the section of the text called the qualities of the spiritual teacher, or the definition of a spiritual teacher. And so in the Lamrim, of course, we talk about the spiritual teacher having lots of many different qualities, so we'll go into some detail about that here. I don't have, I have 16 is what I see it, but it's the PDF, so if you have the PDF. Yeah.
네, quand 게웨 신이자 칸디지라잖아. 기워산지 라운지 람바트네. 네, 상지 기워산지 라운지 람바 셰라. 대신에 상지지 살아야. 상지지 공부 더 중요해지라 게웨 신이잖아.
So generally speaking, what is the? Did you find it, Jennifer? What is a spiritual teacher? This Geshe Tsewang also sometimes is translated as friend of virtue or friend of virtue, by the way, but just sort of a literal translation. But what is a spiritual teacher? It's someone who through teaching, through sort of understanding and teaching to the three types of beings, shows you the path to Buddhahood. And so the first, so here now we're going to go through the qualities the teacher has. The first of these qualities is that it must have the sort of pure ethical discipline, pure ethics. And then also the next quality is that independence on mindfulness and introspection. The person has pacified their mind. And so the third quality is that the teacher must be able to distinguish between things that have sort of an excellent purpose and things that do not fulfill this excellent purpose. And so I asked Geshe, what is this? What does he mean by this Tunyan Dakpa? And what that means is what are the things that will lead us to the state of a Buddha, and what will not? And so then the Shipa? So the fourth quality is that they must have very great knowledge of the three sort of baskets or pitakas, the divisions of the sutra's teachings. Then that's the teachings of the Vinaya, the teachings of Abhidharma, and the teachings of Abhidharma, and the teachings of the sutra's teachings of what is the name for Dodedino in English? Oh, just the Sutra Pitaka. Okay, so the three they must have the teacher must have an excellent command of the three baskets, the three pitakas being the Vinaya Pitaka, the Sutra Pitaka, and the Abhidharma Pitaka. So the teacher also must have an understanding of emptiness, and this can be an understanding that is through sort of study and reasoning through the sutras and the reasoning, or this could be an understanding that is through a direct realization. So the sixth quality here is that the teacher, the Geshe Tsewang, or the spiritual friend, or this spiritual teacher, should have sort of higher qualities, better qualities in terms of these things than the people he is teaching, or he or she is teaching. The Tongbo Chuktetsu,
거로 요대 트디체 다 체주 트디 손자네네 다 시에비 거서 요 거로 바 시에도디요 신케바 다자도야 더빌라를 차라 텐디 통케바지 거라스 다 게요시니 사울을 동토들다
So these first 6 qualities, we can say that these are important because these really allow the teacher to be very skilled in teaching the students how to achieve this path to liberation.
네, 잠바도 니지 깨내로니 스티와요사치. 더자테솔라니 잠바도 니지 깨내로 스티와요사치. 네, 젠도라 스투이 쏜디잖아. 네, 라마도서 추샤라니 스투와요사. 칼레만케 스투와요사치. 네, 춘차발라 망아테서 추셰비카사. 네, 칼레 카푸 따분 토아토 텐리 마임바. le lapo ne postua to dembone ne chusen gaten de goras.
And so then the last 4 here is that the teacher should have love and compassion for the students. The teacher should take joy in helping the students. Shouldn't get worn down from teaching or helping. The compassion is an part of the teaching. 타마가 니 카레리
젠도라 스투이 쫀지 징게톤 다자라 아니 쫀지요사 스투와요사
조이요사
텐데시도 아니 춘차발라 뭔가 추셰비커서 통체바다고 마이 갈레 카푸 텐데 마이 바파 가트요사지 고라.
And so also so the teacher should have love and compassion for the students and for beings. The teacher should have an enthusiasm for teaching, and the teacher should never sort of tire of trying to help, of trying to teach. Yeah, so ideally the teacher would have all 10 of these qualities. That would be great.
Jonah, Jonah, Tandati Chetsonga Gores. Corsetindi Givishinichi Marana, Chechucho desa Givishinichi Marana, Nitigi Yote Chekayosa, Yona, Jichaje, Yosa, Jichaje, and the Tapachi Jasha, Sijana Cheki Chekach, Manta, Yonta, Indio such a goddess.
So ideally, the spiritual teacher would have all 10 of these qualities. If it doesn't have all 10, then you try to find someone with half. And then if you can't find that, then you find someone with half of that.
That Geshe Tsewang Kyap Yona Kon Chechu Soma Sonsachi. Because Matsona the Chekach. Nibot Tasusu Tabila the Sonji Compo Tondon Kajena. Givishini Mana Tindiji Tegores. Suzu Tarbando Sanji Compo Tondo Yonke Tindi Darjajera Lamajina. Yasha Jona Chechu Chuka Sonsachi. Because Chechu Chuka Matsona Cheka Matsona. Cheka sonsaji ngipo to tengora mato tendeji matena ane lelabu ya tarbila le chitu mares.
So those people who want to achieve liberation, who want to follow the path to Buddhahood, achieve Buddhahood, right? It's really important to rely on a spiritual friend. And again, ideally we have all 10 of these, but if they don't, then you can have a spiritual friend that has half of these. And the better qualities this teacher has, the easier it will be for you to achieve realizations on the path.
And then that Geshe Tsewang Kyap tenja lama zena ta chunyenke lama ti kandeji gore zena ne lama de cholome zo ne ba zena lama de ne cholome ba zena ne chila magawa tendeji kechi maimba luzawa nimba lutembu lutombu yankechi gores lama savchi chumato ya mijela geshini te yonjo tindrigu mundu yo pa ju jembaji te ya ju ma ju konjo mu tindri kasaka le june ronsu message ora tindri chi ndru mares lama chutensati di dulcha ki kechu di re dulcha ki kechu
so
lama dulcha
Lami ki ducha.
Lami daja zane tagiti chushenke ki chechura. Ta chunyenke lama dalcha.
Ikering lama. Ikering.
Lama.
Loma.
Loma.
Okay.
Loma.
Okay, then disconnect this one. Loma. That is okay. So now we're this was the heading. There's 2, the qualities of a disciple. In the first part, it's really important that that the disciple shouldn't be unbiased. And one way we can think about this, or we can mean, is that the disciple is very fixed. That the disciple or the student doesn't just sort of bounce around from teacher to teacher to teacher, really, sort of looking for the best person, that really sticks to finds one teacher and really sticks with it. That's one way we can understand this idea of being unbiased.
Chito Lomaina, Chinyankaina, Suzu Gavishini Matepi Naruto. Naro Gavishini Matepi Narozera.
Not Madimbe Nguma?
Matepi Mola. Suzu Gavishini Sutena Taket, Janjiche, Kasakal Sechores. Nita Pena, Nick Taji Janju so much, and then Gavishini Suzuko Rasora, Danka Jatsara, Danka Jatsati, and then Cholage and you Gavishini the Apomundus and a Pa you, I think the Conjomoji and Rigma.
So generally speaking, of course, when one is trying to find a teacher, it's important that you do look around and that you do look at lots of teachers and that you do sort of think about that and the qualities of the different teachers and make a decision by looking around. But once you've picked a teacher, you've taken someone as a teacher, you shouldn't do that. And you especially what you shouldn't do is say, oh, my teacher is the best, that teacher is good, making these kind of unbiased comparisons between teachers once you've picked your teacher.
Ne koro gevishini tena tanda pena nganrobuchi gevishini ten ne jimba tena ndegres yena yo nga yapomudu nga le kyoju nga le teba lo ne yo jimba chi ten tindiche da tindrigumares pena gevishini tensara pena nganrobuchi kyo gevishini tensate ne choro le teba to kuba titato yogore mato tipare teba lo Indru Yapum and Ramandala, your Gavishini Zimbate, and the Channel Mares.
Can give a chigna?
Tombo Gavishini Tsera, Gavishini Ratsara, Nanda Buchoro Gavishini ten, Tensara. And then I enjoy Gavishini Tetting at your Yapum and do it in Ramandala, you partial pandro, and the Channel Mares. In a Cheto Cho Gavishini Cheronte. Dramanda Mombat Tenshogres. Digres. Yena Chostic Tetsat, Choyapum in the Tendichan and Givishini Mombat Tenshogres.
So it is okay to have multiple teachers or multiple spiritual friends or spiritual teachers. That's not a problem. What you can't do is you can't take a spiritual teacher and then really develop that relationship and then at some point then decide, oh, this person's no good or this teacher's no good, and just sort of, go and find another one. So it's okay to have multiple teachers, but you can't take someone as a teacher and then start, insulting them or dismissing them.
Lama Chechu Tombo, and then you bought the Lenin Lutu to the and then Tanda Leba Carre, Niba Carre, Leni, Yawa Carre, Dua Carre, Chegua Carre, Chemogoa, and the Saluton Shingeju Kores, not Kyoyosa.
So that the sort of what is stated in the book as being unbiased was the first of the 5 qualities of the student. So the second of the 5 qualities of the student is here translated as wisdom that differentiates between what is right and wrong. So the student should have this intelligence or this understanding that is able to know what is good, what is bad, what one should do, what shouldn't do, and have an interest in developing this kind of understanding.
And it's Tonya Chiwas. And
then also here it says being interested, but it's really like having great enthusiasm or great sort of joy, like in doing the practice and doing the work of being of these studies and practice.
And chuto chuma la kibaze sonje ke chuto shushenkala. And
so then the fourth here is that we should really give respect to the teachings and the teachers, being respectful to the teachings and the teacher. So so you should really have respect or veneration for the teachers and the teachings.
야마 윤데가 지어라
Some know it.
상 또라나 네 추신케도 추요라 추도 추신게 니가라 상지 지도 야 때네 사때네 연케지 거라마도 추 셰이카서 나위제 야마 근데 저는 지금 사템부요네
Yeah. So when you and then the last quality there is this idea of being really firm in that relationship with the teacher and the teachings, that your mind stays fixed on the teacher or the teachings. For example, when the teacher is teaching, your mind isn't just sort of wandering around everywhere. Really this relationship, you're really staying firm, really relying on that teacher well.
네 사제 삼바테 라요 자타 템비 차라니 삼비 텐서도 교유 텐서자 다 텐서들 삼방군에 텐서도네 교연군에 텐서 니요레스
What's it called again?
소토 지지
Samba.
삼바 대자타 템비 차라니 삼비 텐 교유 텐서도
And so now we're on the section 3, how the disciple relies on the teacher. The way to rely on the teacher has two parts: how to mentally rely on the teacher. Okay. How to rely on the teacher sort of in thought and attitude, maybe translate that. Then how to rely on the teacher in action or in practice, we could say.
네.
Ask one question related
Sure.
to the quality of the teachers.
Sure.
There are the 10 qualities of the spiritual teacher, right?
Okay, we should in the Kichu.
And like nowadays, it's difficult to find one with 10 qualities, right? So at this, we have to, in the book, is that half, a quarter, or one eighth. And then what's the priority?
정한서 the Kichu. Tenzang Kichu the Gewishinin Tang Yubeki Gewishinin Raya Bekalagabudu. Yang the Chega Yana the Gacha Nishu and the Nangshin. Ten the Kichu Ju Te Nangne, the Geche Shukare. Like the Gewishin in the Keche Sum Yana, get the Kesha Sum Te, Ju Ginangne the Geche Shukare. Hakosonge?
Koso. Kechu, Ju, Tombo Kechu, Zu, Jundoa.
They're like the Negaki Keche Kare.
Ne, Zungun, Jugunone.
Like the Nisum Yuna, the Nisum Kari Yogore.
Kari Yogorezana. Tombo Geshe Tsutrochi Labazara, Tsutrochi Labazana, Tsutrochi Labazan, Injimenshi Geshe Trabayi Gomare. Pana Trabayina, Gitsaina, Gitsagidamba, Savashi Sonke, Naginoina, Savashi Sonke. Ne chambaina genye dambayo sayna genye sawa sonke ting jemares ting about gores.
So the most important one is having this pure ethical discipline or really strong ethics. It doesn't necessarily have to be a monk, right? There are different types of vows. You can have the monks, you can have the vows of a fully ordained monk, and as you follow those, you can have the lay vows, you can follow those. But the most important thing is that there's very strong, that they're keeping their vows, and that they have very pure ethics.
다 동부도 제주 동부 준도아 주 총알 니버탈 근데 제주 총사치. 네 제주 올 지바진도아. 네 지바텔라 janto niji kene lo bistiwas chambado kene lo bistiwa yosachi yana ane chushenka ronye la petora shesa lo pentores.
The next one is this. Okay, so it's divided into these 6 and the 4, right? And so the most important one in the 6 was this ethics, and then in the 4 is this quality of having real love and compassion for the students. So if the teacher really teaches out of love and compassion for the students, really has love and compassion for the student, then that will bring benefit both to the student and the teacher.
아빠도 나서 논추 쟁게 논추 생게지 친제 아빠 젠라 스테와 장징이버도 요거레스 장지디오나 수술로 베렛 젠바도 솔로 펜토치 파산난다 겐노 소마지오나
겐노
소마요나 팽그레스 또 겐노 소마지 메아치 카디부지가 셰데나 카데부
카데보.
아주 카데부요
님보도 거기.
카님부시 카데부시에 대하지 뭐 결론 좀 하지면나 안에 수술도 가와 페레데 바로 is pant is covered.
So, of course, from the perspective of Buddhists, we should have love and compassion for everyone, for all beings. But really, from the perspective of this relationship, if we think about, for example, the motivation, if the teacher is motivated by love and compassion, if the teacher teaches from love and compassion, there will be benefit in that teaching for both to the student and the teacher. However, if you think about like another case where somebody say they speak really well and they teach really well and their words are really pretty, but if they don't come from a place of good motivation, right, that's not going to really be of benefit to people. So this idea of this love and compassion is really important.
네, 가시 기회신이 되죠. 네, 하산한다 결론 좀아 요 이제는 시야디 야부지 시마시는 뇨뇨지마도 마시나 이제는 아주 펜도 전부 요아
간다 디뉴뉴 마시카네.
다 기회신 주신게 줘라. 디 카데보 마이지. 아니 바 니무시 마시나 코로 님부 안전 님부 시마시나요. 그노 좀아지요. 이제라 펜비 삼바지요. 네 거기 추카시마도 마시나. 봐줘들라 펜도 첨부요 그래서. 여기까지 그노 야부메 카데보 몽부지시. 되게 야부시에서 상서 전화요.
So you can think of an example where somebody who maybe they cannot express themselves that well, or they're not that great of a teacher in that way, but they have this really strong good motivation that even if they just say a few words, that will be of benefit to somebody. However, you have somebody who doesn't have this kind of motivation, and maybe they say a bunch of words, but it really will be of no benefit to anyone.
땡아 좀 맞지노로 달라마도 몸부 댄스 주몽분에서 수수 뇨하게 하고 그랬어. 뇨뇨지나 주년가에나 가시 뇨뇨지마도 마소나 상로 펜부 시보 가시 몸부 지셔다나요 시라 상로 펜부 마인게 다든지 소망아서 소마게 뇨뇨요랬어.
So we can think about, we've had this experience where somebody sometimes will just say a few words and it's of great benefit to us, right? It really helps us. And then we've had teachings where that's not the case, right? Where people can say a lot and it doesn't necessarily benefit us.
근데 저자 잔도 니지께네 롬비 세와자 개침보라스 추신개진원에 잠바도 니지께네 롬
그런데 동반이 더 베셔 디 개침보 말이야.
동반이 더 베셔 디개 저도 기억이 차는 자주 개침보인데 저래 얘나 추신개진원 걸 동반이 더 베셔라요 나요. 제라 펜상도 딘드메나 고몬부지시나 테마 주 결론 좀 니지 제라 니지 식침보주요나 네 가르시나 페그레스.
I asked Geshe if he thought that the wisdom, having an understanding of the wisdom realizing emptiness was important, and what Geshe said was that yes, of course it's important, but the important thing is this motivation, having this good motivation, right? If you have a teacher who has this understanding of emptiness but does not come from a place of love and compassion, it won't be of any benefit.
그래서 동반이 동계지에나 저도 야부 오신라 동니까 세게나 고다란체 보여레스.
다라.
라쪽고라 동반이 뜬데 라쪽고나 야부여레데 얘나요 디젤라 펜사도 캔로 소마지 그래서 maybe on the tona 이 동반이 또비 jel라 캔로 소마 메사이 하고 말아 그래서 maybe on the tona 이나 싫어 펜 말았어 그래서 돈이 마또 바체 동반이 마또 바체 니 장바도 니 지스티와 시침보 주요나 네 수주지 그 장치도 다돼서 바지 러시아잖아 펜도 침보요 근데 동반이 또 유나영 디디 그래도 니닌지 탐지 제와 시침보
메나
네 바로 볼라네
디펜도 유나게
시침보요 말해
그리고 라초부터 그냥 그래서 라초 나요 디펜
말해 동반이 또서나 그래서 나 동반이 또 자지 아니 그래서 나 저러 동반이 거 세고나 내가 또서서 야부시아요래서 동반이 또를 얘나 영이 이제로 펜선도 결론 좀 맞으면은 요초라
Yeah, so that if you have someone who who understands or even realizes emptiness, but does not come from a place of this place of love and compassion, this desire to help, then even if they explain, that to me or to explain that to you, right? There's no blessing from that teaching, right? It doesn't. You don't receive some blessing from that teaching. Whereas if someone doesn't realize emptiness but comes from a real place of love, that is of great benefit.
Di sawa niji ndo anga zu chuchya chura to soma sawa niji res ne omajo banola niji te ton ta parsa to kechimbo res omajo banola
Tokma di
toma sapota porta chalata taman dribu member ta niji to chone trayo mares niji to hajo kechimbo res.
We can talk about the Oh, yeah, so from entering the middle way, there's a very famous sort of set of verses there which talks about the importance of compassion. And the point it makes about compassion, this love and compassion, is that it's important in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Like that there is no point in the path essentially where this compassion is not vital, right? So this is a very famous quotation. Do you have another question? That's what the look like. Takjugore. Not the takju the look the jugore.
Okay.
Mariti.
Ale zodo rende.
Zoksare. Kabazogire.
Losa.
Takpa jupa?
Losa gore, losa ba. Taba ju. Taba chuzan.
I think it's there. Where is it?
Is it chatting?
I think so. Digger. Mouse now. What happened? This thing's being weird again. Cutting it.
What's happened?
Look at what looking at the trackpad, young the intro song. Huh. Weird.
You need GG again?
No, when I plug it in, the trackpad goes weird. The gyomari, tanda ngatsoti. Gyomari.
Ale ten lo meis.
No, the antigri.
Ale.
Ngatsoti takpate judu. Di gunchorgiri.
Ale.
The kakamasong.
Yeah.
Tinna, the pejangiri.
Ale.
Kakamasong. Tanda gyomari.
Ta sambala chata tempitsala sambi tensa to jawa tensa tendo chachira ne tombo sambi tensala tembi samba chatamba to chepa tsawa tepa jonwa kwate jis tembi kibacho ta tembi samba chatone samba kanti tenko res na ne chepa tsawa tepa to josa kanti res ne kwate jis tekunguni kibachawa was
So there's the three. So then the next section here, A, how to mentally rely on the teacher. This has three sections. Generally, the ways of relying on the teacher, particularly generating the basis of faith and being respectful out of gratitude. And so, this is really just, as it says, basically, generally how we rely on the teacher, how we generate sort of faith based on the qualities of the teacher, and then really through understanding the teacher and the qualities of the teacher, we generate gratitude for the teacher.
ane ta tombo samba temba samba tenso cheton geshete ane ro ta ne lamyon to ton zeba zena pena ta gewishini tensara tensate ani suzuko ro choma to ne lama kar sona ti drama to su lama kan do ba ma tendi chena de mares su ro ro ta ne zana su kon cha te me ba zu ane lama kar shena gewe shini kar shen on cha soma gewe shini la ya sistene o te ta pares.
So in this next section, sort of generally how to rely on the teacher, the important thing here is that you really give up, with respect to this spiritual friend or this teacher, you give up your own sort of freedom or power, right? And just whatever your teacher says for you to do, that you do it, right? So you're no longer sort of being independent of that, and so that really whatever your teacher says to you, you do. And you do your best to do whatever the teacher says to you.
Pena jizamela ke mabaluza gewishini tera. Tende mabaluza ke ane jizamela la dubu tonza gora takale mombu tene leka mombu leje yena yoba jizamela ka leka kasa yabolena mabaluza ke yon ndegu mundu pa tende mombu chene lu mombu kale yena tanda jizamela repa teba chone malone sa sichita teba mabaluza kar che sona tinoje che kale kyapa tende chene ane tama ne sichele chela sonji kompa teta boche.
So we have the example of course, the Milarepa and Marpa Lotsawa, the Milarepa's teacher, right? And so Milarepa, Marpa Lotsawa told Milarepa to do all of these kinds of things, and was really in some ways kind of abused him or was mean to him and made him do all of this work, and whatever Milarepa did, he wasn't satisfied. He said, no, that's terrible, do it again, did this over and over again. But Milarepa just did whatever Marpa Lotsawa said and never lost faith in his teacher.
And in Zawati Sikyo Chetamam Shabazanata, the Lama la Siwatu Tepas Yora, the Kandi Lama and Reshelopa Tendi Janayo, Su Satan Lama la Yichiche, Tendi Denkashikures. Pena Tanganda Chiki Chorola, Givishini Ten Yichichera, Yichiche Sanchi Tetsati, and the Mijimbajic Lene, Indru Yabumundu, Ramanda Tendishera. Yena Suzu Gawachone Manoji Satin Dojita Satembo Tintinka.
So here we have this example. So general ways of relying on the teacher, so that in general a disciple should have the following 9 qualities when relying on a teacher. And then here the first quality, an excellent sun-like sense of sacrifice and one's freedoms to be completely under the control of the teacher. The Zawa
the Sikyo Machaba Tempa. Zawat is an Lama la Sewat, Lama la Gajenjiura. O ti Majimba Saka Karama Conjum Karichezana.
The Dojitabu Gisim.
Zawate, Sikyo Machaba Temp, Dujitabasan, Dujizana, Tebak Picarjares, Satembu, Tabu. Oh,
okay. Yeah, so the first quality was this excellent sun-like sense of sacrificing one's freedoms to be completely under the control of the teacher. Here, the second one we can say is endearing a diamond-like sense of consistency and holding a bond that nobody can break. Endearing, zawa te su kyang mi ji this ego just kinsapo to the kogi to inchige samsam this kinsapo kogi. Zawa sometimes means like dutiful son, so I'm not quite sure, but the meaning Sorry, now we're unmuted. Did somebody just tell us? Yeah, sorry. It muted itself when we came back. I will just repeat that. We're on the under the quality, this is the ways of relying on the teacher. In the English, it says a ground-like sense of responsibility and bearing all the burdens of a teacher. The Tibetan here is a little clearer in that this ground-like, what it means is that you should be like the earth or the ground that supports, that bears whatever is put on top of it. So whatever your teacher tells you to do, you do without any problems or complaints or feeling burdened.
네 수술로 등어 또 강어 수술 가른 이제 전화요. 아니 되긴 교아마도 봐 아니 다 문턴에 봐. 되는 거의 레타버잖아. 레타버 봐 템보 가르쳐잖아요. 땅아 라 게신이 텐서라니 코도 카트르메스 알라 쳬보존나 두보존나 간디존나 라마 초로예 타보든데 상주고레스 템보주고레스.
So the next one here is a mountain-like sense of firmness to stand against all sorts of suffering. So really, whatever arises, if because of following your teacher, suffering arises or happiness arises, whatever arises, you want to be like a mountain. You want to be stable, and you want to be able to just take it, right? And so that you don't worry about it if you have to experience suffering or whatever arises because of the instructions of your teacher. You are like a mountain in your stability.
Lama la leka karena la mala leka kale kapoyona le lapoyona karen richi leka yona tsoma le tendiche tamke jugores mata yo lama leka ya le la tsayona le ne kale kapo tsayona male tendiche njumares.
So yeah, so if your lama, if your teacher gives you something difficult to do or something easy to do, regardless of how hard it is to do, you just do it. It's not okay if you're like, oh, well, if the lama gives you something easy to do, you do it. But when the teacher gives you something difficult to do, you don't want to do it or you choose not to do it, right? That's not okay.
Ne penata jiza marbalu saka jimelar jinka muchira ne zoto son sosa tonre zo akora
zo jinka
tombo tanda marbalu saka jiza melar pa jinka tsoma muchu ane sapon tachi ane tanto do ya doju komba link chu komba zochu jata da jit marbalu zalane jimba tsaka pacho to zo ramat somo pira tito dapu che chipa leka kale kase mombo chi lechi de yoras yenayo jize mela korok sangone lama la tahno yapu jo ayo so lama che de leka kar le dena ne chosa jojo kane jolden do chosa jojo jole yan do res.
So like for example Marpa and Lotsawa, Marpa Lotsawa and Milarepa. Marpa Lotsawa told Milarepa to go out and plow all the fields and plant the crops and harvest the crops and build the buildings, and told him to do all of these things. And whatever he told him to do, he did it, right? And so it's this same thing. Whatever the teacher instructs you to do, you think about it, you understand it as this sort of purifying and accumulating positive, sort of accumulating virtue and purifying sort of obstructions or negative karma. You think about it through these difficult acts, you're accumulating virtue and purifying negative karma and obstructions.
ane suzu ngaje chewa to ngaje choma ma pone suzu lama le mawa yes lama le nyonchoi lama le yota memba yes tende kenlo chikora mato yo lama le nga yoten toa ngala jonto yo tende tena ndiyo mares.
It's also not okay that if you have so here we go into the next one that says a sense of rug-like humility and abandoning pride or great pride and holding oneself lower than the teacher. So whatever, you really should understand yourself as being much lower than the teacher, really having humility with respect to the teacher, not having a lot of pride with respect to the teacher. You definitely shouldn't think, oh, I'm better than the teacher, that I have greater qualities than my teacher. That's not good.
Ne lama chawasan lama leka yana lama kalon no ayana kale kapu katse nrichi chesona pa sanlo stroa gato yombe mone leka lekor leka lenanda chulanya chananda lama kar sona te stroa yombe tone gawa yombe tone
di gemala de ngake di rang lama
lami chawasin
shindu gawe kur chiwa namgyang jojin
tepa daw sem
the tekpadap. Okay. So a vehicle, so the next one is a vehicle-like sense to bear all the difficulties and burdens of the teacher by oneself. Oh, these are strange. Lama shindu gawe kur chiwa namgyang joshindu zimba tekpa. Yeah, so the idea here basically is that, you know, even if the Lama gives you really hard, difficult things to do, you want to do them with joy. You want to do them with a sense of happiness to do this work. And this is compared to a vehicle here in the text.
And Lami nishi sheyo tela chua chitabe sans michuas. Ne Lama ne sheshe tonandra nita tonandra. Ane tela ya kontro mazawa. Pena chitabu te soke chela ne sheshe ton yubajan.
So the next one here, a dog-like sense of not getting angry when the teacher belittles or scolds one. And so this is really just whatever the Lama tells you to do. If the Lama criticizes you, or whatever it does, you shouldn't get upset. You shouldn't get angry. It's like a dog, right? That a dog sort of looks up at the owner, and whatever the owner does, whether it scolds them or whatever, the dog just sort of sits there and looks up at the dog at the owner, and so you should have that kind of devotion to the teacher.
Ane lama la chawa chisayo chozana lama la lekato ta chawa karen rizi yona pina tratapo chiche koras tru hakora chanondo tru kola chala katsa mombo jatindi kendora ina tru chala kya pandu in sayo mato trudela kahno to tindi salo yomara tinoje lama to lama ke lekato kare pandu jozana pandu sayo jozana sayo
And so here the next one, a boat-like sense that goes back and forth untiringly for the amount of service one provides the teacher. And so like a boat, right? The boat, whatever you put in the boat, it carries and it goes back and forth across the river, really not thinking about how much of a load it has in it, right? And so in that same way, whatever the Lama tells us to do, we should just carry, like a boat, just carrying a load across a river without any sense of discouragement.
Chechu gobutendi sonsachi lamachi yena lamachi gane geweshinye tesona ne tsindala suzu ne tsosa jaba jon patana mijimba chitana lamatike gechutala dupu ton deata chi tendi tabuchi tongres majimba ina suzu ngone tendi kenlo chika tendi chaja Jonya chawa chawa so chawa yare ndo ato ane jo sanji kombo tala ne tende chaba yores.
And so like if you have these 9 virtues and you rely on a teacher in this way, you really will accumulate lots of virtue and purify lots of obstructions. And so maybe from the outside it might look like the Lama is like hurting you or harming you or abusing you, but really what's happening is you're actually accumulating a great amounts of virtue, and that you can attain the state of Buddhahood quite quickly.
Nita tanda te chechu gubutu lama te lauren no le shela ke chechu gubutu res. Yena tate tona ta yasha tombu te res. Nga sonra bachena. Te chechu gubutu tsona ta yasha te ratom.
Yaksha te kare te kare.
Mare ta nga sonra bachena. Gewi shenyi ji tera. Te chechu tsoma gubutu tsona. Te lauren no soano je tsona yasha atombu te res.
Okay.
Kasi ti matuna ti kon le shendo cheka cheki tabo tino chini to na ya paras shijao ne nga sondra chena tinde shijao ke chemboras ma shijao pena tino lo chechu gushendo ta chechu guka de chona ang tombu yasho tera gutre nena te matuna ti cheka ti 네 티체까지 수수가 다 도사마라 다 갈래 데타멜라 드부터 하노지 가식 텐데 살로 또 그래서 텐데 많이 봐 가스 수수가 라마치다 게베 신이지 때나 테노 가서 투투지 가서 투투지 시자도 개침보레스.
So you know, just like with the teacher, where the teacher had the 10 and then the half and the half and the half, right? In the same way, you know, there are these 9 qualities, these 9 ways of relying on the teacher. And of course, if we're able to do all of these, this is wonderful. It's like we're number one. It's like really fantastic. But we really should it's important to really strive to have as many of these 9 qualities in this relationship as possible, right? It's really important to try to really fulfill all of these. What you shouldn't do is think, oh no, this is too hard. I'm not going to do this, or I don't care about this one, right? You have to at least try to fulfill these. And if you can fulfill all 9 of them in that relationship, then that's fantastic. That's number 1.
네, 니바 체바 사와트 종와스 바티 제마샤치라.
So for the next section, particularly generating the basic faith, sometimes I find this translation so strange. Yeah, I would translate that more as like specifically how to generate faith, which is the root of the path, maybe is how I would translate that. But not basic. I wouldn't translate sawa as basic. Sometimes the inchi get this cooking on this tokbasagi. Anyway, we're going to do that next time. We're going to go ahead and start questions. So, Haruna, if you have any questions, you're welcome to speak up, or Jennifer.
9 quality, right?
The 9, yeah, the 9. Here, the 9 ways of relying on a teacher. Probably the 9 ways of relying on a teacher is probably better. Yeah. So there's like qualities of someone who's relying on a teacher, but yeah, it's just have the following 9 qualities while relying on a teacher. So we could say qualities, yeah.
Quality in Chinese translation, it translates like mind. Like you need to have that mind, have that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, and the ground line. So the ground light.
Satabu.
And ground light and vehicle light.
Tekpatabu, Satabu, Tekpatabu.
It sounds like a little bit similar.
The double.
And so.
Not true though, but like also the boat like there's some similarity, right? Satabu.
Boat light, I think it's different. Boat light is like like you are not feeling tired. Doing all this, and ground like does it? I just want to.
Sure. So the ground like and the vehicle like, what's the difference? Is that your question?
Yes.
Sadabu tang tekbatabu tenigi kebakari.
Satabu tebatabuyo. Satabu tebatabuzana. Tikonlo satabu te lami chavi khotanche koala koa satabu samsa. Ane 사지티 산도카르 사지티 걸로 잘카르잖아 잘카르잖아 초그라 케투라 딘디타보사 사타보잖아 파 somebody 갸침보.
So in terms of the earth like, right, the earth is really big and whatever you put on it doesn't matter, it can hold. So it's a big mind in that same way. You can think of it as the motivation.
ane 테바타보잖아 냐탈 카르잖아 초바. 아주 초전은 아주 잘 카르잖아 케토아지오라. 케토아. 겨로 잘라 지고 사부잖아. 뇨뇨잖아. 카르잖아 케토아지오라.
And so the vehicle like is like whatever kind of load is put on, we're able to carry it, whether it's big or small. It still sounds similar to me.
테바zen lika yawato dua lika karkena tebazen ketoba.
The ketupa. The ketupa tang sa.
Satabu tikar satabu sazen. Jachimbo. Jachimbo.
Oh, okay.
Jachimbo sakuyomo pachu chimbo. Sapuzo tobu maimo. Jachimbo paku. Tebazen ke ketoba.
Ketu.
Pena kawatiki ti kombato tevazena kawatiki kombat ketugura toga. Otinoshi. Kurtubas.
So we can say that the earth-like quality is like the key idea here is that it's really sort of vast. It's really big, and the vehicle-like is sort of like whatever you put on it, whether it's good or bad, like whatever duty they give you, whether it's good or bad. You don't. Yeah, you just carry it like a vehicle. In the same way that like this pillar, right, can hold up the building.
Pena ngaso nanji yontra kapila kakela kara satabo to jansu tabo samzani ko sam jachimbu jansu te jachimbu
Satabo the
jansu tabo jachimbu ani satabo sazana jama tabo jachimbu jiora.
So there's sort of a saying in Tibetan which talks about being earth-like or ocean-like, right? And so it carries this sense of vastness or bigness. And so this earth-like motivation or quality in Tibetan has this sense of being sort of big and vast and encompassing.
But in English, textbook, it says the ground-like sense of responsibility in bearing all the burdens of people. So I feel like we have to have that mind. I want to try to share or bear the burden of my teacher.
The lame chawe kur tamje kurwa satabusam. So the Tibetan says lame chawa kur tamje kurwa sa. So whatever, like, I will carry all of the burdens of the teachers, basically what this says in Tibetan.
So what does that literally mean? Like, whenever the teachers feel pressure, like whatever teacher needs?
Zeti tundati lamegi chawa kur tamje kurwa sa tabuti. The lamegi chawa ki Sangmati kyap chegyoreves.
Ko semba sataba samzan semba to jachimbo chiyosona lami ki chawa karin drosona semba jachimbo ngalan druma so ngala ngati drotu samareza tikenlo to yoma semba jachimbo pasat pena aso sautjeza jonshike saut jesona saut pa jesora jonshike saut jesona mi jemba de so control katselon ramanda karchena ko control za yoma tinoje sapa jachesona ne tanda ti satabu samti satabu koyombu pa jachembo chasona ne lama karashe karnyota mu nyota shena kol kango yoma res.
So if you have this mind that is like the earth, right, that is very vast and very open, then whatever the Lama says or does or asks you to do, it's no problem. Similarly, right, if you have bodhicitta, and you have this vast mind of bodhicitta, then if people get angry with you or abuse you or whatever anyone does, it doesn't disturb you. So it's sort of like that. It's that idea that you have this open, vast mind, and so whatever the Lama asks of you or does to you, you're fine with it.
Sanche tanche ke tundanga chawa che san tindre kenlo che lesare tindre lesate ani ba sanche te so ndamanda kar che jana kozo le niji kya ma to control zawa to ani chato che tindre leg mara tinaji samba pa jachimbo chasona ne lama ka cha te so kale yo tindra boras.
So again, in the same way of like bodhicitta, if one generates bodhicitta, right, then you have this very vast mind, and so regardless of what anyone else does, really all you're generating is love and compassion. You're not getting angry or anything. Or you have this big, vast love, and so it doesn't. So whatever anyone else does, it doesn't really matter. You're going to have compassion for them. So it's sort of like that.
All kana strujen den zemba teba tabasa lama cha akara josona so gaji strujen gonne.
Gawa
to stua zena gawa pena na cherola ane magi dashola 게스보리와 근데 잘라질랭 간도쇼라나 저 삼바 가제 노아 계제던 존에 봐 대다 예인 바라 사상도 지어라
디 그래 디 태고다 봐
그래서 지와나 주 주진 젠바
주신데 태고다 주신데
조신
okay. So yeah, so then if we look at the vehicle like one, so lame chawe shinde gawa kur jiwa namgyang joshin. So here the important quality is this idea that you do it with happiness or joy, right? So even if here it says even although the lama gives you a really difficult task, you do it with joy or happiness, right? So if we look at the vehicle, like that is the quality of that, is you're doing it with this joy or happiness. Kenigi samsula di mocha tetso nga tsola di jowa shindu kergireve. Kenigi samsula mocha tetso nga tso jowa shindu kergireve.
Mocha ke te keg mares. Tenda jowa shindu tere.
Nga
ti mocha ti tabas. Pana mocha zena nga tso pi jagra. Pana mocha to tesola chala kare kejana kor pa kendro cha kegwa ma sal mocha ke nga kale khaso tende salu yo mara tin noje tin tanda lami chaza pa ndo sho cha yo sho ka cha la jana ko juno je ma sal kano to kyono tende yo mara pi ja tin noje.
I tried to make a joke and asked him if he thought cars were happy when they carried us around, but I didn't think I don't think I got the joke. But the idea is that, of course, these vehicles, right? However much we load in them or whatever we ask them to do, they take us around without any complaining or anything.
Pena ne tsepaya pena ngaso tato je to 제 다하거라 다제 잘라게 산저다 봉고 동케 대sol을 잘라게네 야 또 야마 동도 대sol을 지 산로 스트로너라도 까노라 텐디 요나메나 땡아로 산사이 전이 따나 요래
직신한테 전 좋아요 말해 좋아하면 득삼니다. Do you think the horses and the donkeys, when you have them carrying loads and things, do you think they're doing it happily with joy or not?
I don't think they are happy.
Yeah.
I thought about that question. Like, because if they have the choice, like if human being, they can communicate with a human being said, if you do this hard work for me, then I will feed you something like this. But for them, they are vegetarian. They don't really need much.
Yeah.
Right? So they only need grass. Grass is everywhere. So I think they will choose, I don't want to carry all this, like, I just want to have a free life.
The 공소디 좋아하신듯 말에 강인스나 공소 랑왕 공소디 랑왕요 말에 공소라 닥제나 the 쿠르테 쿠르와기 닥주기 말에서 그 강인스나 공소 눈에 가릴 거래 자 거래 때마도 고마래 디 자 테 카사칼 거래 공소라 랑왕이나 자 사야 조거래 때마도 최고 말해 딘진도 눈에 지내 디 따통 디 공부 디 가려는 델 대초 디 닥주나 쿠르케르기 말해
코스 베나타 제도 따뜻해요라 파 케케지는 아주 파타나 즈불라 강아도 등어 요요 바라라.
Of course, there's difficult, it's suffering for them to carry these heavy loads.
대도 요요. 얘나 삼라 까노도 지 삼라 스트로노도 까노든지 요나메나 디와테.
공기는 요마레.
딘디 요마레. 얘나 요 가시 요 삼라 직스타치 하고 베나 아주 고조요라. 고조. 고조도 본다 놀 추칼람 콤반놀레 저저제 놀 제로 제금도 철로마 션도 그래서 요파 지바데 시기야 놀레 딘디 이때 고조 콤반놀 대알 스트노마 제보메 바지 딘디 저한테 하고 되게서라 철로파 션도도 하고서
이 고소 대토디
그나 고조 파나 바초 조모
네, 아까서
됐어 콤바노레 gonda 사라칼 니미코 릴토라 gonda 말레테 수 콤바노레 주라 수수 두산 가시 파 셔자 주니 레네 콤바노 주 가시 파 시저 저바샤 텐데잖아 놀람 제로 마체 솔로 파셔 되거든 텐데이데 고졸레 콤바테노 사나 제알라 가와토 마가와 텐데
So, for example, we have like the farm animals, like the pigs and the chickens and the cows and whatever. Some of them, you know, in the evening, of course, in the day they're out and about, but in the evening they all go to their little barns or houses, right? And some of them will just go right in on their own and go into the house, but then some of them you have to really like, you know, sort of encourage to get into their barn. So there's probably different, the animals probably have different attitudes about that. In the same way. Yeah. So there's maybe a difference in the animals. Some are happy about it, some aren't.
We don't know because we.
That's a hakomo song, many. It's awesome. Thank you, online. That's really weird with this.